if you are the owner of or president or something along those lines of your business, could you raise your hand? I want to get a sense of the room. Okay. If you are a CFO, accountant, something along those lines, can you raise your hand? Several. Okay. And anyone else that I missed? Okay, a couple. Thank you for being here. It's a big deal that you're here. I promise you this will be worth your time. I've been in banking for 12 years now, and I learned very early on as a loan officer that business owners, the most valuable thing that they have is their time. So I really want to make sure your time is respected and honored today. I don't want to waste it, and make sure you leave here feeling like, man, that was worth the however many minutes I put into it. So with that in mind, today we're going to be talking through, first of all, the most serious threats. I don't want to talk about every single thing. We want to zero in on the things we see the most regularly with our business customers. We're also going to teach you red flags, things to look out for. Just like Cordell said, if you can be aware of what to look for and stop it on your end, that will prevent so much more, and then we can catch the rest. I'm going to share some real stories of businesses that have struggled with this, and we're going to learn from those. We're going to learn best practices to put into use. It's very, very important that you take the information that you get today and you share it with your employees, okay? Especially those, you're going to get a sense that there's a couple of employees that probably need it the most. Hit those first and then go from there. There's some of this information that all of your employees are going to need, okay? That's why, just like Cordell said, if you would like the slide deck, grab my business card over on the table before you leave. I'd be happy to share that with you. Just run through that if you want. And talk through what you remember. Most of the information's on the slide, so it should make it very easy to train your employees. So let's move forward. The first thing I want to do is kind of cover big ideas that I want you to remember. If you get one thing out of today, it's these two things. First, I want you to remember that you got to take control. Fraudsters, when they're trying to trick you into a scam, they're trying to lead you down a path. They have this roadmap figured out, and they want you just to go along with it. But if you take control and you say, no, stop, hold on, I'm not going to go down there. I'm actually going to go this direction. It will save you so much hurt. And I'll show you what that looks like in practice. The other thing you'll hear me say a lot today is, does this make sense? Get that question locked into your brain. Ask yourself, does this make sense that they're asking me to do this thing, or that so-and-so is calling me about this thing? Does it make sense? I've worked with this vendor for a decade, and we have done things the exact same way. We email each other. Our correspondence feels and sounds a certain way. I send money this way. Now, they sent me from a different employee. They're asking me to send the money a different way. Does that make sense? And if not, what are we going to do? We're going to take control and handle the situation ourselves. So we're going to see what this looks like in practice. But these two things will save you the most hurt. Take control of the situation and ask yourself, does this make sense? Okay? So one thing you're going to learn a lot about today is something called business email compromise. This is a big topic. It's essentially where a business's email access, and it can be just one individual employee, any of your employees, has their email account compromised. And that can look like a lot of different things. And therefore, that causes you trouble. And that's what we're going to look at. So this idea is really what you want to look into. The first one, maybe the most important thing I want to hit on hard today, is phishing emails. Okay? Let's talk about, who's familiar with what a phishing email is? Raise your hand, just so I get a sense of the room, okay? So phishing emails, the idea here is this is an email message used to steal information. And that information could be things like credentials, passwords, account numbers, private information, lots of different things. And they're going to use that information then to gain access, to either gain access to your email, gain access to your bank accounts or other accounts that you have. I think our minds automatically go to this idea that, well, they get access, they're going to see what's in my inbox and take that. That is sometimes what they do. Sometimes, though, they are going to just sit there. They've gained access to our email inbox. And they're going to wait. They could wait months, waiting for the right opportunity for a business to say, hey, here's a business you work with all the time. Hey, here's this invoice for $10,000 for this big job we just finished for you. And they swoop in and say, actually, sorry, that account is, I sent you the old account information. Here's an updated account information. Please wire it to this account. So they know that you do business with this vendor. They know you owe them this much money. They know this is how you do business. And they swooped in there and got you to divert money. That can be accomplished with a phishing email. Phishing emails, we know what they look like, right? We get them every day. Some examples of what they might look like. They might say something like, click here to reset your password. Click here to log into your account. They want you to download an invoice. They want you to look at this PDF, this invoice or something like that. Can you verify your bank account number? In this setting, reading that, you're like, oh yeah, totally. That's a red flag. That could be concerning. But on our phone, at our computer, we don't readily realize that, oh, hold on, this is a red flag. This could be something. And we're going to see what we do about that when we see those red flags. So phishing emails, let's look at some stats. First of all, as of 2022, phishing emails are now the most prevalent cybercrime. Every 11 seconds, a phishing attack occurs. How long has this been going on? How many phishing attacks have occurred during that time? 94%, I did not say that wrong, 94% of businesses receive a phishing email each year. And 88% of those receive multiple phishing emails in a year. It's just part of doing business now, unfortunately. So you have to educate yourself, educate your employees, and know how to handle it. What else? 13% of employees are likely to share their login information on a fraudulent phishing page. Let's dissect that. Let's let that really sink in. If you have 100 employees, 13 of them are readily going to give their credentials, their username and password, and the fraudster now has access to whatever they had access to. They have access to files, the fraudster has that access. If they have access to bank accounts, the fraudster now has access. And all it takes is one employee. That's why it's so important to make sure every single employee is trained and knows what to do. Oh, sorry, I have more. In 2022 alone, U.S. small businesses, I skipped one. Employee payroll has become more regularly targeted by phishing emails since 2021. What's in employee payroll that's really valuable to a fraudster? Social security numbers. What else? Address, account numbers, right? Where is this money going to? Lots of information that can be stolen from payroll. In 2022 alone, U.S. small businesses lost a total of $4.6 million in phishing attacks. And, most importantly, regular training for employees reduces the risk of loss by 84%. That's staggering. That's a really effective solution to all these concerns. Train your employees, let them know what you're learning today, and then they can watch out for themselves. So let's see, what are some red flags? What can we do to prevent some fraud? First of all, this is part of that take control aspect. We need to slow down. If we see an email that we suspect is a phishing email, slow down. Rushing is the quickest way to fall victim. Sorry, let me go back to this. So what does that look like? I get an email that, oh, these are some of the red flags Tyson said. It says this, or it looks funny. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to pause. I'm going to give myself time to process what's actually going on, and then I'm going to decide how I move forward. Okay? Next, ask some questions. Do I know the sender of this email? Was I expecting this email? Is this like previous communications that I've gotten them? And like I said earlier, does this make sense? Is their request, changes, whatever it may be, does it make sense for this situation? And then based off of how you respond to those questions, you might change your actions. Beware of emotional baiting because they will bait you. They want you to act quick. They want you to not think about it, so they use emotion to do that. Click here or you're going to lose access. God, act today. Your order has been delayed. Have you ever had a big project and you find out your order's been delayed, this parcel's messed up, something went wrong, and now everything is being backed up. Payment for invoice X is still required. They want you to react with fear, panic, annoyance, like whatever will get you to just, okay, whatever, yeah, click on there, get it done. Again, remember how I said earlier that I learned early on that time is the most valuable thing to business owners? Fraudsters know that too. They want you to move quick, they don't want you to think about it, and they will use emotion to get you to do that. So don't fall prey. Slow it down, be in control of your emotions, and even recognize that, oh, you're baiting me. I'm not going to fall for that. I'm going to slow down and take control. Spelling errors or bad grammar. These are often signs of fraudulent emails. The idea here is they want to bypass email filters. These filters are set up in your email, whether it's through Outlook or Gmail or whoever. They have filters set up, and if they can phrase something in a weird way or spell something wrong, it can get through those filters and find themselves in your face. Think before you click. This is a big practice here at State Bank of Southern Utah. We train our employees to think before you click. What does that look like? You never click on a link until you know where it's going to take you and that the destination it's taking you to is safe. Okay? How do you make sure this is going to a safe place? You hover over that link to determine where that target location is. What does that look like? Let me show you. So it says click here. I'm just going to take my mouse over, drag it over, hover over it, and it will tell me, I don't know if I want to go to hacker.scam.com. And that is okay. I'm good. I'm going to not respond to that email. So just hover over it. Every single time I get an email with a link, I've gotten into the practice of hovering over it. It takes 1-2 seconds, and then you're done. Okay? Think before you click. And lastly, do not reply to emails that seem concerning or suspicious. Never reply to the suspect email until you have verified its authenticity. Research the details included in the email. There's a phone number in there. Google it. See if it's tied to the business or person that it says it is. Look up the person. Are they affiliated with the business they say they are? If you have a contact with that business or whomever, pick up a phone, give them a call, go to their place of business even, whatever it takes to verify yourself. Again, that's taking control. You don't want to just go along with the program they've created. Okay? Let's look at a few emails. See if we can spot some red flags. You guys are experts now, right? Take a look at this email. What red flags do you recognize in this email? Go ahead and shout them out. Invoice number. What's concerning about that?
That's not mine.
Okay, great. And the fact that there is an invoice. Anytime I have an attachment I was not expecting, that gives me a reason to pause. Right? What else?
They're not addressing it.
Say that again?
They're not addressing the person.
Yes. Hello. If they're working with you, does that make sense? Typically, they'll say your name or your group, whatever that looks like. Excellent. What else? Hey, I don't even know who this is. Are there instances where something could come through that you don't know who this is? Possibly, if your business is busy enough. There could be invoices and vendors that you're not familiar with, and what could you do to offset that risk? Yeah, communicate. Talk to whoever else in your business could know who this person is. Hey, did we recently do business with so-and-so? No contact information. Just says NJW Limited. Done.
The email address should go to NJW something, not Xeroxo.
Yes. Well, yes, the link itself is very odd. I don't know what that is. I would for sure hover over it and see where it's actually going to take me. Notice they're saying, please do this as soon as possible. Is that emotional baiting? Yep. So, does this mean I'm going to assume it's a phish email? No. I'm never going to just I'm not saying you have to delete or ignore all potential phish emails. What I'm saying is all these are red flags. All these are going to cause me to slow down and take control. So what would I do in response? I would get on the phone with my coworkers and say, did we recently do business with NJW Limited? If not, or even if so, call someone I know with that business, get to the bottom of it. This one looks pretty fishy, right? No pun intended. Next email, what do we notice? Does anybody have a subscription with Cloud Drive here? Because I would love to know what Cloud Drive is. That's a pretty convincing fake name.
They're preying on fear and urgency.
Yes, where do you see that? Yeah, look at this. Woo! I don't even know what files they're talking about, and that scares me. It could be something very important. And it's a small time window. I gotta act now. Move. Definitely emotional baiting. Yes, the link itself is very odd, very concerning. 100% I'm going to hover over that link and see where it's taking me. Notice it even gives me instructions that are suspicious. Don't worry. Listen, if you get prompted to sign into your account, that's totally normal. Please give me your credentials. Please give me your password. That's concerning. Also, again, signature line. This is why I really value signature lines in the business world. They help me identify what's fishy and what's not. Ending on thank you is a little odd. Let's look at last one. Anything concerning about this one? This has a few different ones. Typos. Several. International phone number. Very good. Now, Norton's a huge company, so that's possible. But once I notice it, could I look it up? What's Norton's normal phone number for customers? Do I do business with Norton? Am I subscribed to them? I don't know. That could be a red flag. What does this email really want me to do? Boom, 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 boom. They really want me to call them. Did you have another one?
Well, no, I had one very similar to this from McAfee.
Okay, yes.
That McAfee was spelled wrong. But I did call him, I don't know what it did. But when he started to explain why it didn't come from Norton, this is coming from a personal person.
Okay.
And they also, I couldn't find anything on there that referenced my credit card.
Okay.
And if they were gonna charge it, they should have that credit card.
Sure.
The last four numbers.
Does that make sense?
So
No.
I was talking to him and immediately I got a really bad feeling. And I said, whoops, I'm gonna call you right back.
Yes.
Hung up.
We're going to talk more about that, touch on this later, but is it ever okay, is it okay to hang up on a call that makes you feel uneasy or suspicious? It's always okay to hang up. I give you permission to be rude. Just say, Tyson said I could do this, and then hang up. Okay? Yeah.
What do we do with the nefarious purposes of AI and recording our voice signatures, sound waves?
Whew. That's a heavy one. Silas, you want? I don't even know what to.
If you follow the same procedures that Tyson is teaching you now, so someone can steal your voice pretty simply these days, but you still follow the same procedures. Is this a call I'm expecting? Because they're still going to use these same methods to try to change the normal procedure that they go through with you in business. They're going to try to get you to do some other method of transaction, and that should cause a red flag, even if it's your voice that's been stolen. So having a procedure is important, and following that each time is really important.
So trust our vetting enforcement.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Well, notice these red flags. It doesn't make sense. They're asking me to change. Now they're calling me. I wasn't expecting this. All those sorts of things. Yeah.
One thing I've learned is don't say your name. If you're not certain who it is, I do not say my name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for them because as soon as they say your name, oh, so and so,
Right.
Act like they know you.
Well, and it does not make sense if you're their customer or if they're a vendor you use. It doesn't make sense if they don't know your business or what line of business, things like that. Excellent. Yeah.
Please do not reply to this email. 99.9% of companies like this, most of their business is through email.
Right. Right. Huge concern. There's several different things, and you'd be surprised. So I found this on a website where these are real emails being used to target people, and they said something like tens of thousands of people have fallen for this email in particular. One more comment.
Yeah, I was wondering, if, I know that you can see these things and you don't have to respond in a way that gets you into the problem.
Right.
But is there a way, and I'm getting, lately, I've been getting on my phone, a lot of these, cloud drive garbage.
Okay.
Emails. Is there a way that, I mean, I don't respond to them, but is there a way to get it so that they can't send them to you, or you can?
So you can block it. I would suggest reporting it as a phishing email on whatever server you use. Both of those would help. But I would report it for sure, because that's going to tell your email server that, oh, something about this is suspicious and concerning. We're going to try and make it so that not just you aren't going to get those, but all of our customers were aware of what's out there. Helps educate them. Let's watch a little video it'll recap a lot of what we talked about and maybe adds in a little bit more.
Phishing is a way crooks try to bait you into giving up your personal or financial information. When you see an email that seems a little fishy, you can sniff it out. Let's look at some of the common features of phishing. There's a sense of urgency. Something is going to be canceled, money is due, or maybe there's a reward, and it's imperative that you act right now. Although I may say it's from a company you know, look carefully. That email address certainly doesn't look right. There's a lot of bad email out there. Major email providers filter and block dozens a day before they reach your inbox, but still some get through. That's one reason phishing emails may look sloppy with bad grammar or strange formatting. They're trying to get through the filters. Some phishing emails will include an attachment. Never open attachments you weren't expecting, even if they appear to be from somebody you know and trust. If you receive a surprise attachment, reach out to them. Confirm the attachment is legitimate before you open it. The same is true for links in email. If you mouse over one, you can see where the link is going. That looks fishy. Instead of clicking the email link, it's safer to go to the company homepage through your browser. So, what should you do? Reporting will help block other attacks like this, and should move the email out of your inbox. If not, you know what to do. Delete it.
Another really helpful tool I would make sure you write down. There's a couple websites out there that will help you identify whether or not a website is safe, or even an attachment if you had taken the step and downloaded it, if you want to scan it first before you open it. Safeweb.norton.com and virustotal.com are both websites that are extremely useful. I've used both of them to check if a URL is safe. Norton looks like this. You would just input the address, and it's going to tell you what level of concern it has. Yes, it's good. We're not totally sure, but I'd be cautious. or no, do not, stay away from that. Not a good idea. Virus total works the same way. This is how you can upload a file and see if it's safe, and a URL works the same way. Just input that URL. It's extremely effective, takes a couple seconds. Okay? Any other questions about phishing emails?
How do you feel about VPN?
VPN, I think that's a safe option to avoid issues with phishing emails. I think VPNs are extremely effective and totally safe.
We use it all the time,
Okay?
and when they see something crooked,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, immediately erases it.
Okay.
Or they send us an email saying, this is wrong.
Okay.
So that's why I asked.
It's a great VPN. I'm going to have to ask about that. Yes?
How effective are VPNs against keyloggers?
Keyloggers. Silas. Silas is our security, our information security officer here at the bank. So he's kind of the expert in the room. VPNs helping with keyloggers.
Not necessarily. So a VPN just creates a tunnel between your computer and the service you're connecting to, and it encrypts that traffic. So it protects the traffic in transit, okay? But it doesn't necessarily protect your computer. So if you've opened an email on your computer, downloaded an attachment, and that attachment happened to have a keylogger in it, it can still watch everything that you're doing on your computer. So no, a VPN won't protect you from that. It just protects the traffic that's going between you and the service you're connected to, if that makes sense. If you want to protect from a keylogger, it's what Tyson's teaching right now. It's don't download the malicious attachment that contains the keylogger in the first place.
Any attachments, that's a huge even if it's legitimate or I was expecting, I'm still going to be cautious and think through it, slow down. Very related. We're going to move on to the next topic. Very similar. Yes, Cordell.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
I will pause for you.
Let's say we didn't slow down and we clicked on something or we downloaded an attachment and we're like, oops, I made a mistake. And you know, it might take you to a link where you put in like a username and password and you recognize, okay, this isn't like the site that I normally go to.
Right.
What should you do at that point? If you clicked on something but you don't know if you've done anything, is there anything malicious at that point that could happen just by clicking on a link?
My first thought is, and Silas, you add to this, is if I gave away my credentials, I need to make sure those credentials are no longer useful with whatever business or website I put those into. What would you add, Silas?
If you haven't entered your credentials, if all you've done is click on a link in an email and it takes you to a website, in most cases, you're going to be safe. It's the interaction that matters.
Right.
So if you go to a website, let's say you get an email and you click on a link and it takes you to a website, in order for any other malicious activity to take place, you have to interact with something. So a pop-up is going to come up that has an allow or block option. And so if you haven't interacted in some way, you're in most cases, you're going to be safe.
Excellent. Thank you, Cordell. Yeah.
Well, I've got this communication not from email, but from a letter. I received 2 letters telling me that my personal information from my medical system has been infiltrated.
Okay.
That's the word to use.
Okay.
And so now they've given me information here that they gave me the date that my information was acquired.
Okay.
Which makes me really mad. Do I believe this stuff? That my personal information has been,
So my reaction is the 2 things I mentioned at the beginning. First, I would ask, does it make sense? And possibly it could, if I've worked with that vendor or that business before. But the most important thing is you have to take control. If you don't recall, or even if you do recall working with that business, call them, get somebody on the phone, ask them to give you proof. And you're not going to use information from that letter. You're going to look up their phone number on the website or go to their office and talk to an employee there and know that you're getting the correct information. But they want you to just say, oh man, this is not good, and assume everything's good. But that's where taking control has to come in. Yeah.
So I get my information back from the insurance company about a bill that they have gotten money from, and I did not do those services that my insurance company is paying for.
Okay.
So how do I take control of what the insurance company is doing? I mean, they're saying I have this service and this service and this service at the hospital, which I did not, but they're paying it out to somebody that's getting.
Are you able to stick around after this class? Let me. I would be interested in looking at all the information with you. No, you're good. Yeah, there's a lot of information there that I think would help us. So let's do that. Yeah.
What do we do if we notice that our email's being spoofed against us and sent to us, as well as a telephone number that's being called against us and spoofed as well?
Whew. Silas.
Your email is being spoofed, someone is using your email address to impersonate you. So you own your domain. You have a .com or a .net that's associated with your business. Are you using a personal, is it like a Gmail account? That's a little harder. If it were a business email and you owned your own domain, there are certain steps you can take to protect your business that way. So for a personal email account, it's really difficult, especially when it's a Gmail or a Hotmail or a Yahoo. I would have to say I don't have an answer for that, but I will try to find one. Maybe I can get your email address after, and maybe I can look that up.
It's like you guys planned that. This is a perfect segue. We're going to talk about impersonation fraud. So phishing emails oftentimes are a form of impersonation fraud. Somebody is trying to act like they are a person or a business or an entity, and they're trying to, again, get information. But it's not always through email. It can be through text messages, phone calls, a situation where they're posing as your bank or your insurance company, a vendor that you work with, or even a person. I've heard stories of grandma gets a phone call from John, who just left for college, and he says I'm across, on the other side of the across the ocean in another country. Everybody stole my money. I got ransacked, and can you please send me $500? It turns out, no, he's just a few miles down the street. He went to a different university than what that person said. That's not your family at all. So it can be lots of different situations where they're posing as someone or a group. And again, the idea here is stealing credentials, gaining access, or trying to trick you into sending them money. So impersonation fraud. Heads up. If you got these have kind of died down. This joke won't land like it used to, unfortunately. But I promise you, your extended warranty is fine if you've gotten any information about that. Okay, but that's a great example. Impersonation fraud is widespread. We all experience it on some level. We don't have to be a business owner to encounter it. So these are the companies that are most often spoofed. Amazon is number 1, Google number 2, followed by Facebook, Netflix, Apple, and Microsoft. What do all these have in common? Why would fraudsters act like they are from one of these companies? Name recognition. Everybody uses them, right? It's believable that, oh yeah, well I guess I use a Google at my Gmail account. That could make sense. Yeah, I have a Netflix account. Or better yet, I used to have a Netflix account. Why are they bothering me? They didn't even intend to emotionally bait me, and all of a sudden they did. It's just name recognition. Enough people use it that more often than not, you're going to land on somebody who can think, oh, that really is from them. Yeah.
What I find funny about this is try calling them. You can't find a phone number.
For these businesses.
No, they all do chats and they all do, you have to contact us by email or something. And you cannot get a real person.
Well, that could be a red flag if they ask you to call them then. Here's a really good example from a news story not long ago.
And this viewer, want to
tried to expose what's really going on after he got built by imposters claiming to be from Chase Bank. And just like they did with B of A customers, these crooks say they're helping you stop a fraud when in reality, they're the ones stealing your money.
Holy smokes, no way.
This person told me that someone was trying to scam me.
So this is happening to many people.
It appeared as though it was a text message from Bank of America asking me if I was trying to transfer $3,500.
I said no. And within 15 seconds, my phone rang. He said, okay, we're gonna get you that $3,500 back. You're gonna go to Zelle and you're gonna send it to yourself.
They were all targets of the same scam. All believed they were reversing a fraudulent transaction. All were actually sending money straight to the imposters.
$3,500 was gone right then and there. It was an eye-opener.
And all were customers of Bank of America until now.
It says Chase Bank, fraud alert, Zelle payment in the amount of $2,000.
It was a Friday night when Donald James got the frightening text.
If you made this transaction, reply yes. If not, reply no. I said no, and my phone rang, and it was Brian from the Chase Bank Fraud Department.
For so he thought.
Caller ID number was identical to the one on the back of my Chase card.
But the caller ID was fake.
And he goes, well, let's go over these charges. Did you send a Zelle for $2,000? I was like, no. And he says, we need to send the money back to yourself.
The imposter told him to transfer the money with Zelle using his own phone number. It seemed like it was going back to Donald. It wasn't.
I was getting notifications on my phone that I had sent myself money.
He typed in the transaction codes and the imposters snatched the money at the other end.
I sent out $7,000 over a matter of several transactions.
When one transaction went awry, the scammers got angry.
And hung up. And I went, wow, I have been scammed.
B of A has refunded some victims of the Zelle scam. When we asked Chase about its policy, the bank only offered a warning that bankers will never ask you to send money with Zelle. That was their response.
Tricky people sending it back.
Okay, let's talk about that story. First, what things did the fraudster do that made these different people feel like, oh, this is real, this is legitimate? Yeah.
Use the bank number.
They spoofed the actual bank number that's found on the card. Yeah.
That number back, and sure enough, it was the bank number. I thought
Okay.
that had to be it.
Okay. That gives me some confidence. What else? Have we ever received or seen people receive text messages saying, hey, there was a transaction for this? Say yes or no if you did this. Yeah, that's a normal practice, right?
This bank.
Yeah, that's the thing. All of us do.
I don't normally make,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a text right away.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
Very normal practice. That would give us confidence moving forward with this conversation. What were the red flags? Where was it that we would say, hold on, does this make sense?
Sending it back to yourself.
Sending money back to yourself through Zelle. There's a couple layers there. Does that make sense?
One thing I heard is they don't call you.
What do you mean by that?
The fraud department does not call you. They email you.
That's not totally accurate. Sometimes you will get calls from us.
The other bank I used, they said we don't call you. We'll email you.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the things I've done in this instance was check my history
Okay.
on my account.
Great.
And then I'll call because every institution has more than one number.
Sure.
And they will get you within to where you need to be.
Yes.
But not call that number.
Yes.
Send that text. I'll call it different.
So that's an excellent example. A couple of examples there of taking control. I got this text. I said no. They called me. You know what? I'm going to call myself and see what's going on. I'm going to look up my bank transactions. And maybe it hasn't shown up on my end, but it will show up with a bank representative. Can I call them? Yeah. And I can take control, be in control of the situation. It does not make sense for me to go to a totally different system like Zelle and send money to myself. Like, if you really think about it, that does not make sense. That question is powerful. Does this make sense? Okay. Tactics and triggers that fraudsters use by generation. They really want to zero in on what will get people to react and what method can I get them to move. So find the group you're in. Don't be offended. We're all on here. Tactics. They might use robocalls or social media. Triggers. Do those triggers speak to you a little bit for your age group? Most of the time they do. I know my daughter is 10, so nearly 11. Friend requests, man, that would get her. She would be coming to daddy and messed up big. I won't say how old I am, but yeah, if I saw rewards, something about rewards, yeah, I'm going to act on that, okay? My mother-in-law, who's in her mid-70s, is constantly calling me about the IRS and Social Security emails she's getting. Why? Because all these things matter a lot to the person. This is called social engineering. They want to not just throw out something, see if people react. No, they want to put some thought behind it and actually be intentional about the tactics that they use. So what can we do to protect ourselves? The first one with impersonation fraud, this will look familiar. Slow down. Okay? Give yourself time to think about what's happening. Whether it's a call or an email or a text message, you do not have to act instantly. You can take a moment to process what you're going to do. Next one also should look familiar. You're going to ask questions again. Do I know who this person is? Was I expecting this? Is this like previous communications? And does this make sense? Again, beware of emotional baiting. Are they threatening consequences? If you don't do this right now, this bad thing's going to happen. You have to act immediately. It will invoke panic, guilt, fear, especially as a business owner. You're not just on the line for yourself. You're thinking of your employees. I need to make sure I make payroll next time around. You can't give in to that emotional baiting. Take 5 minutes. Think it through. Never share a one-time PIN. This is a more recent thing that has come up. One-time PINs, I think of them like they're social security numbers. They're unique to me. In this instance, I do not share my social security number with anyone. And in fact, the only people who are ever going to ask you for your one-time PIN are fraudsters. Your bank will never ask for that. They will not. If you don't have it, they will send you a new one. Okay? And if you actually read the full text, a lot of people, when you get that text, where do your eyes go? To the PIN, right? You don't actually read the text. What's the first thing the text says? Do not share this code with anyone. Let's go back to that question from earlier. Does this make sense? Does it make sense that my bank sent this, said don't share this with anyone, and then said, please, can you share this with me though? That doesn't make sense. Do we have a question?
Yes, what I have is regarding a similar instance to that, but
Okay.
I never requested a PIN, and yet it says I'm being given one and don't share it. So I'm suspecting that that's something.
Yeah, and you want to be suspicious of that. It's possible. It could be so many different things. The main thing is if this included a phone number, I would make sure I do not call that phone number because that may be how they're trying to bait you. If you feel like you need to, you could change your information, your password. But the fact that they sent it to you and you're not going to act on it says that, great, you're protected, right? That's the whole point of this is protection.
Yeah, I've been going directly to the actual official website.
Yep.
To check numbers as well as other information rather than going on the link.
Again, taking control. Excellent example. So never, ever, ever share your one-time PIN. That is like sharing with people your social security number. And we don't do that. What else do we have? Think before you click. Again, if you get a text message, this isn't just for emails. If you get a text message, never click on the link unless you know where it's going to. I did not update this. So I looked into it. And Silas, correct me if I'm wrong. With an email, I taught you, you just hover over the link. You can't do that on a cell phone. What did I already tell you can do to see if a website is safe? We can go to those websites, Norton, VirusTotal, And text messages are great because they will show you up to a certain point, a certain number of characters, they will show you where they're going. They cannot hide it very well. So just copy the link that's going to take you to, put in those websites, and make sure before you click on anything, you're going to think before you click. Silas, would you add anything to that? Great. Yeah. And then authenticate. Validate the texter, the caller, or the sender by using known verified contact information. Just like this story. Go to their website. Get their phone number from them. Google the person's name. Make sure they actually work for them. And if you're not finding it, contact State Bank and say, hey, does a Cordell Morris actually work there? Okay, then can I talk to him? Apparently he's emailing me. Whatever it takes, right? Look up the phone number from the website, existing contact information. This is why it's so valuable to have a relationship with someone at these companies that you work with. Whether it's your insurance company, your bank, or a vendor. If you know someone, you don't even need to look it up. Get so-and-so on the phone, talk to them, hey, I got this email, and then they can help you out. Relationships go a long, long way. And yes?
What do we do if we feel that we've been redirected from an official website to a fraudulent website?
Why would you think that? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's just something that I've seen online.
Mm-hmm.
There's a potential that you might be redirected from something official into something else.
So my mind goes straight to you would avoid that by first doing the steps we've talked about. If you verified that website is legitimate, and you're using the website I got from a previous email or contact information or something I Googled and looked up myself, that's the point of doing these steps, is you avoid that situation. Silas, would you add anything?
I think there's really only two reasons that would happen, and that is you clicked on a link that you shouldn't have, and it looked legitimate, but it redirected you to an illegitimate website that is impersonating the legitimate website, or the legitimate website that you went to has somehow been compromised, which is obviously much more rare that happens. It is a possibility, but much more rare. So typically it's going to be because you clicked on a link that redirected you somewhere you didn't want to go.
And honestly, if you find yourself in a situation like this, and I said put it in terms of a phone call, but the same idea, don't be afraid to just turn it off. Get out of there, start over. Yeah.
But sometimes when you go into like your medical information or whatever, if you click on to look at your messages or something like that, it will say you're gonna leave this website.
Right.
So, I mean, that's legitimate, you know, because you're looking at your messages from that website.
Right.
So you're gonna leave this.
So being redirected is not a red flag, but how you got to that redirection is what matters. Making sure you got there from a website that you verified, is a known verified contact information, website, email, whatever. That's key. Making sure you did the work at the beginning. Yeah, one more.
There's many people, they call you and ask you for the name.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Mr. Such and Such? I hang up.
Okay.
Because if they don't know who they're calling, there's somebody else that I don't want to call.
Okay.
Want to talk to.
Again, you do not have, there's nothing wrong with terminating a call. If I call you though, can you let me know you're going to hang up? I will stay on the phone for 20 minutes before I realize it. Yeah.
If you could elaborate on those rare instances where somebody might be redirected from an official website to a fraudulent website that they copycat, how can you tell that that's happening?
Well, so if you're redirected, so if you go to a legitimate website that you normally trust and you redirect the page, you'll see a change in the content as you're redirected. But then also look at the URL in the address bar in your browser, and it will no longer be the legitimate domain. So like if for some strange reason the bank's website got compromised and traffic was being redirected, you would see yourself go from www.sbsu.com to some other domain. It may look similar, but you will see a change in either the content or the domain you now access.
And if you notice that, at that point, you take control. You close that browser and you give a call to Tyson and say, hey, Tyson, what's something going on with your website? I just need this information. I'll help you out. Let's go to another one, not as a little different, check fraud. A growing concern with businesses is check fraud. Checks in these situations is either stolen or counterfeited. Counterfeit checks, they can be created using business account numbers. So if all they get is your account number, they can just create a new check with just that account number. Or stolen checks can commonly be taken at your office or your P.O. boxes. Legitimate checks can be altered. They might change the payee. They might change the dollar amount. They might change both. And then checks posted to your account that you did not write or authorize. I'm going to show you some examples of what this can look like. So this is a legitimate check written out to H&H Industrial. Okay, $541. All the details is for these invoices signed by the account owner. Okay. Then you look at this one. This is a fraudulent check. What do these two things have in common? I'll give you a clue. Only one thing. Well, two things. Yes. The only thing in common is the account it's drawing off of. Sometimes fraudsters are not looking to put a lot of time and work into it. They're just going to get your account number and then apply it to a new check. And notice George Costanza wrote a check to himself. And everything looks good, and you're out $4,500. So that's one type of situation. Another one, though, they put a lot more work into it to fly under the radar. This is a legitimate check written to Vandalay Industries for $7,133.57, signed by whomever. There's a quote and the memo line, all this stuff, right? Well, this is a fraudulent check. In this situation, they saw this is what their checks normally look like. I'm going to imitate it as closely as possible. The signature is identical, so they must have copied it in some way. They didn't even change the memo line. It's identical. The only thing they changed was who it's written to and the dollar amount they put close to. They know they're good for $7,000, so let me take a stab at $5,000. So it can be both situations. This situation's risky because what if you're looking through, your accountant's looking through, checking to make sure transactions look right, and they just peer, yep, check image looks good, and you're not actually looking at the payee. You got to look at all the details to verify if it's legitimate. We'll get more into that later, but that's why this one is especially effective because it looks familiar. Yeah.
The check number.
Yeah.
Because you look at your bank statement and you see two checks with the same number.
Okay. So most often, in my experience at least, the fraudsters will be wise to that. They'll see, okay, this is the check number, and if I go too out of sequence, it's going to set up a red flag. Maybe even at the bank I'm depositing in. Keep in mind, these second checks were not deposited with State Bank. These are State Bank accounts, but they took these checks to their account at Mountain America or Zion. So they don't have any way to verify whether or not this check is legit or this check is legitimate like we do. That's why they stay away from us. But if they keep the sequence of the check number close enough, yeah, that makes sense. 10 out, that's believable within a day. But if it jumps out of sequence too much, so they're going to be very mindful. I don't want to repeat.
You have your own 5666.
Yes, but if it posts to your
And verify your bank statement, it's not going to come up $5,000.
Mhm.
And it's going to, and you'll have two of them
Right.
instead of one. So you're going to catch it, but it'll be a month too late.
Well, and that's exactly, yeah, you're getting ahead of me. Did you look at my slides before? Very important. You're touching on the most important thing I'm going to touch on with check fraud. So let's go through these. Things you got to do. First of all, you got to safeguard your checks, okay? Keep your checks in a secure place. Limit what kind of access employees get to those checks. Only certain individuals should have access to that. I remember my first job at a bookstore. I had full access to the checks. I wrote checks for the business owner even. And I was 18. Thank goodness I'm a decent person. But that is not the way to practice business. Be careful. Safeguard them. Keep them in a safe place and limit access. This one, when you mail out checks, apparently, supposedly, unsecured mailboxes are a big risk, okay? So if you have the option, take it in, okay? Hand deliver that check. Do not put it in an unsecured mailbox. Or secure mail services are always an option as well. Review your account daily, what we were talking about earlier. If you review your account daily, how much fraud are you going to catch? Like very little will get by you. Check for charges you did not authorize. Verify dollar amounts and the payees are correct. Don't assume, now this would be impressive, but what if that check number and the dollar amount do match up? That's possible if they took a check that was legitimate and they didn't change the dollar amount. All they changed was the payee. So you got to pull those up. State Bank's website will give you the ability to look at the check images. Okay? So you got to look through the images. Make sure it matches what your records show. Okay? What else? Reviewing less frequently will leave you liable for loss. The longer it takes to get it, the more liability you assume. Consider alternative payment methods. Okay? Writing a check simply has more risk than electronic payment methods. So if you have a vendor or an individual that you are able to send electronic money to, go for that option. Limit check payments so that you limit your exposure. And then the thing I would endorse the most is Positive Pay. Who here uses Positive Pay? Great. Positive Pay. Excellent product. So what it is, it's a service that we provide that helps detect and prevent fraudulent checks and payments. What we'll do is we compare the checks that come in that want to clear. You give us a list of checks that you've authorized. We compare them. If it doesn't match, it doesn't clear. Positive Pay. Look into it. If you don't already have it, talk to your loan officer or banker. We can get you set up with it. Extremely helpful, and it acts as a barrier to your money. Very good safeguard. Okay, one more topic I want to cover today. Ransomware. Now, if we didn't listen to Tyson, if we didn't slow down and take control, if we didn't ask, does this make sense? And now we've got ransomware issues. Who knows what ransomware is? I won't ask you to define it, okay? Several of you. So, your computer or your device. It used to only be computers, but your phones are just as susceptible now. Your device has been compromised. It encrypts the files or the data on that computer or that device so that you cannot access them, okay? And then they demand a ransom for you to regain access. Think of the files and information that you have on your computers and devices that you need to do business, okay? That is held hostage. How does ransomware affect small businesses specifically? 39% of small businesses in the US have been ransomware victims at one time or another. 50% of the time, those demands to regain access were for $1,000 or more, that ransom. And 22% of the time, it leads to businesses closing. The reason is most often they don't have the money. They're asking for too much money. I can't pay it, and now I can't do business without all that information. Or a lot of the time, they do pay it. They make it work, but they are struggling after that point, and they just can never get their legs on the ground again. Very sad situation. You have to protect yourself. Let's look at another news story.
We've reported on several high-profile ransomware attacks recently. The Colonial Pipeline, meat supplier JBS, and the Kaseya hack, infecting more than 1,500 organizations.
It's the number one problem, there's no doubt.
Supervisory Special Agent Casey Harrington heads up the Salt Lake City FBI Cyber Task Force. His office is working on 60 to 70 ransomware cases in the state.
We're getting 5 to 8 per week of companies, in this area calling us and saying we've been hit.
Victims of ransomware attacks typically can't access their computers until a message pops up.
And it's not just you, it's the person sitting next to you and everyone down the hall, and it's the whole company will know at that point that they're in big trouble.
The FBI is working with foreign and domestic partners to get ahead of these hackers.
These ransomware attacks really are costing businesses and people's lives a lot of heartache and dollars.
There are 4 things you can do to protect your business. First, have a plan in case of an attack and how you will recover.
These are happening so frequently now, and they're hitting organizations of every size.
Second, educate your staff on phishing.
The number one way these attacks start is with an email with a malicious attachment or a link. And so employees are the number one place to start to stop the attacks.
Third, have a working backup system.
A lot of times what we see in this is people say, we have a backup, but it's still on the network, and the attackers will encrypt or delete that backup, so it's no good to you.
And last, update your antivirus and malware software.
The standard things, but most companies aren't doing them.
The FBI knows that some ransomware attacks are not reported, but to get ahead of these hackers, agents say you should report these crimes.
Okay, let's go through some measures we can take to protect ourselves. First of all, you need to update your software regularly. Timely updates will patch most of the vulnerabilities that would be issues. This includes software that you use or your operating system. Okay? And when I say timely, I mean immediately. As soon as I get notified that Windows has sent out an update, I install it for whatever patches they've included in that. Ad blockers. Okay? Ad blocking apps protect you from scam campaigns and attempts to distribute malware through ads. And some internet service providers provide filtering, but you can also install extensions to your browsers as well. Prevention software. This is the most common way to defend against ransomware. One suggestion I always make, because it's free, there's at least a free version of it, is Malwarebytes. You can install on your system. VirusTotal also, you can use that to prevent any kind of software or issues with that. Because if you're downloading something from an email that is corrupted or is going to hurt you, run it through VirusTotal's website and make sure before you open it up. Control access. Use a firewall to control access to your network. If they get in and they can't get anywhere of value, it's going to fall flat, and that's going to be you're going to be just fine. Keep sensitive files and data separate. If I limit access so that only certain people, the majority of my employees do not have access to my vital information, my vital data, that's going to ensure that if something did happen, we're going to be just fine. That computer is just no good. Train your employees. You heard right there. This is probably the most effective way to prevent any issues. Frequent training of employees is necessary. Teach them preventative measures so that they recognize attacks, they recognize a phishing email when it comes your way, and then, if possible, test them. State Bank, every 2 months, within 2 months, we get a fake email from our good friend Silas or his team testing us. It's impersonation fraud. They are trying to get us to click on a link. They're trying to see if we will be foolish enough to enter our credentials. And it's very effective doing that testing to show us how easy it is to be spoofed, and helps us be aware. It keeps that information front of mind. Do that, if possible, as often as possible. I don't know if you have limited capability to do that, do what you can. Just test them. Testing them, I can tell you, being in learning and development, testing someone is a lot more effective than just saying words to them. If you make them actually put into practice what you taught them. Backup. External hard drives. Put your information on an external hard drive, but make sure it's disconnected. Or cloud service, the same thing. Make sure there's not a connection there. If I am a scammer and I get access to your computer, you have everything backed up on a hard drive or cloud storage, but I have access because I'm logged into your cloud, or you have your external hard drive plugged in, I have access now too, and I can delete all of that. So make sure you keep it disconnected, separated. Other solutions provided, there are lots of solutions provided by vendors. I will say to this though, this is not enough, because let's say I get ransomware on my computer. And I say, you know what, we back up our files every day. I'm not even going to engage with them. We have all the files we need. But what's unfortunate about that situation is those scammers keep your information. So what do they have information for? Your customers. They have information about vendors you work with. May have your account numbers, your employees' information, their social security numbers, all that information. That's why ransomware, all these steps are really helpful if something does happen, but you have to focus on preventative measures. The phishing attacks, impersonation fraud. Train your staff to watch out for potential risks there, because if you get into this situation, it's not about eliminating issues, it's about minimizing, because there will be issues you have to face, okay? Silas, what would you add to that? Please.
Go back to training your employees. If you don't have the resources to purchase a solution that will help train your employees, because we know businesses are always receiving phishing emails. I'm sure most in this room have seen a phishing email even recently. You can take a screenshot of that phishing email and then send it to your employees. And then just have a conversation either through email, or if you have employee meetings, just kind of go over, okay, here's what I got. Let's talk about what red flags there are, and just have that kind of conversation. And that's a great way to train your employees. You don't have to necessarily have a solution like the bank does.
Yeah.
Where we're sending out tests every 2 months. But anyway, that's
Whatever keeps it front of mind. Keeps the conversation going. And I love, just like we did earlier, bring up an email and identify red flags together. That's a great exercise, especially if you're doing it regularly. Thank you, Silas. So at State Bank, we really pride ourselves on relationships we have with our customers and the community. We want you to be safe. That's why we're holding this. If there's any help that we can be to help protect you, any tips that we can offer you, please let us know. Like I said, grab my business card. If you'd like these slide decks to kind of help navigate that moving forward, I'd be happy to send it out to you. The most important thing we can do is help each other. I love being in a small community, especially because we all depend on one another's success. If you guys are successful, we're successful. Even if you're not a customer, we need you to be successful because we all depend on each other.